G'day everyone. Something I've been meaning to do for a while is to get an old piece of equipment on the side of the road and gut it and see what's inside and pull out anything that's useful. What I got was a FM receiver with a tape deck. It looked like probably late 70s. I was hoping that there'd be some sort of germanium mojo inside, but it's not that old. Actually, probably would have actually been about early 80s. Looking at the technology inside it. But before we even look at some of the stuff that I've dismantled from this thing behind me, a word of warning: the siren is going off. If you don't know what you're doing, don't open anything that's got a mains power plug on it. If you've got something that runs on 9 volts or battery powered, by all means pull it apart and take some stuff out of it, but do not touch anything that's got a power cable. There's capacitors inside this stuff and it holds a lot of charge. It's like a large battery and it releases it all in one big zap and you will hurt yourself. So don't even think about doing it if you don't know what you're doing. So let's have a look at some of the stuff I pulled out of this thing. There was no germanium transistors. You can find stuff that has germanium transistors. I see people writing that on the forums all the time. Old organs have hundreds of germanium transistors, and you find all sorts of neato stuff inside this old stuff. But mine wasn't quite so rewarding, I guess. But there's probably some stuff in here that you could use. And also, just while we're on the topic of salvaging old gear, some of the reasons why you might do that. Obviously parts are very cheap, you know. I mean, you can buy capacitors for 5-10 cents each and resistors for less than 1 cent each. So you've got to have a pretty good reason to actually want to do this. And a couple of reasons you may want to do it is firstly because you don't have any money. If you're young or you're I don't know, you just don't have any money on you to buy the stuff. You can pull some stuff out of old equipment. If you come from a country where it's not, you know, you're not dripping with technology like us first world countries, you may not have a choice, and you want to pull some parts out and make something out of the parts, for instance. And also it's good desoldering practice. You don't have to worry about lifting a pad or damaging anything. You can just get your little plunger and your wick and go nuts on it, and you don't have to worry too much. It gets you a bit of practice with desoldering, and also just to learn maybe a bit about old equipment, what comes with them, and you know, the eras, what era it comes from, and what you'll find inside. And also you can look up some of the part numbers and see what they do and how they relate to the actual thing that you are gutting. So let's have a look at what I've got. First I'll just show you the boards that I've got. There were two main PCBs that came with this, and a lot of it I probably wouldn't use. I wouldn't really have much faith in using it, but I'll tell you on a component level what I would use and what I wouldn't use. You have a lot of stuff. This is the smaller board, and there's all sorts of bits and pieces. I wouldn't use the electrolytics because they dry out. I would use the film caps. I probably wouldn't have much of a problem with that. Unfortunately, these ICs are very much related to an FM receiver, so they're pretty much useless for guitar pedals. There are some transistors on this board, as you can see. Some of those are related to, when I looked up the data sheet, they're actually 2SC, Panasonic 2SC. This one, for instance, is an 828, which is a high frequency amplifier, which I'm not sure will work very well with a guitar pedal, but there are a couple that are low frequency amplifiers as well. General purpose amplifier is what you want if you're looking for transistors, and there were a few of those, about 5 of those, which you could use, and I might use actually. They're really low gain silicon transistors, so you know, you can put them in a fuzz face or just a booster of some sort, or the other good one that I found likes a low gain transistor is the Lavash, which is another good one. So yeah, the Greenies I would use. Transistors that are general purpose I'd probably use. I'd have to test them first. You have to test all of this stuff first before you use it. Wouldn't bother with the electrolytics. They're cheap enough these days and they dry out. And you could probably use the ceramics. You're going to want an era, also I should mention, you're going to want an era that has a board in it that is through-hole, not SMD. Good luck pulling off SMD components. You could do it, but it'd be an absolute bloody nightmare. This is probably limited to through-hole gear that's got through-hole boards in it that you can take the leads out and reuse the parts. So what else have we got on here? Oh, I also had, I'll actually show you what I've got on the desk. Oh, hang on, one more thing. This is the second board, and this actually had some pots on it, and I pulled 3 of the pots off. Pots you can use. They might be a bit scratchy if the grease, it has some grease inside that helps to make the pot turn flow nicely, and if that has dried out, it might be a bit scratchy. But you could give it a go, and this is what I'm talking about by large capacitors like this big sucker here. You've got to be careful you don't get zapped by something like that. It's 2.2 millifarads, so it's a relatively big size. If you open something up like a TV and it's got, you know, rows of these, they can do a bit of damage, so you've got to be careful. Yeah, I mean, it's something that if you don't know what you're doing, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. And you should probably just stick to, maybe have a look around for some battery powered stuff. Like I said before, you should be right with that. I can't imagine there'd be much danger with something that's battery powered, 9-volt battery powered, but if it's plugs into the wall, don't touch it. It's not worth it, trust me. And there's a few, there's an IC, this is another Panasonic IC, which is also very much related to FM transmitters, FM receivers, unfortunately. It's an AN115, and there's another AN7145 as well, another Panasonic chip, and a few other chips. So unfortunately the chips were useless. I was hoping, I don't know if it was op amps or something back then that it might have inside it, just general purpose audio stuff, but it doesn't have it. And there's there was a lot of Greenies on it. I just pulled a whole bunch off just so you could see what you can get off it. I'm not necessarily going to actually use this stuff. I'm just actually showing you what you can get off it if you choose to go down this path. And the other thing too is on that little board, I also found a germanium diode. Wouldn't have a problem using the germanium diode. Test it, make sure it works, which I did. 0.3 volt forward voltage drop, and I thought, well, you know, there's nothing wrong with the germanium diode that's old. It's probably an IN34A. I'll actually show you. We'll have a look. So, as you can see, they're the Greenies that I pulled off. I wouldn't really have much problem using those. I don't think there would be anything wrong with them if you needed to use something. Or the other thing too, I was thinking also with these boards is if you just pull them out, have them handy on the you know, on the side. Put a box, you know, get a box full of them, and then if you're building a pedal and you find that you haven't got a particular value, you can just rip one off. Just use it as you need it. So there's some of the film caps, and they're actually pretty good values too. That's this big one. The biggest one's 22 nanofarad. There's 100 nanofarad. There's 10 nanofarad. There's 5 nanofarad, which are all very usable values for guitar pedals. And that's the germanium diode that I pulled out. Wouldn't have a problem using that, as I said before. I tested it, works fine. There's a silicon diode. Wouldn't bother with that personally, but if you're doing this because you're on a tight budget, then you could use it. There's nothing wrong with it. You just get them for $0.01 each, so they're almost not worth using. I'm pretty sure these are not so much sought after, but they are used. I think they're styrofoam capacitors. I'm pretty sure. I don't know bugger all about them, to be honest, but I think they're styrofoam capacitors and they are used. You can pull off ceramic caps if you want to test them, make sure they still work. They're probably, by the nature of ceramic, I'd probably imagine that they would be okay to use down the track. And then there's a 12-volt regulator that I got as well, which is a 78L12A, which I'm pretty sure is just a standard 12-volt regulator, so there probably wouldn't be too much of a problem with that. And then the small signal general purpose transistors that I got were the Panasonic 2SC644, and I'm pretty sure they're just general purpose. I have to try them in a circuit first to see what they sound like. I'm sure they'd sound good. And then there's trim pots that you can use. They might have a bit of a scratchy, again, you know, like a bit of a rough dial turn, but you'd have to give them a test. And there's a ferrite rod as well. I know you can use ferrite beads on power supplies to make them a bit quieter. I don't know if a ferrite rod's going to do the same thing, but I thought I'd just pull it out anyway in case anyone else could think of a use for a ferrite rod. And then you've got the pots, and they're actually dual gang pots again. You can get these for 50 cents each, so it's not a high expense part, but if you're looking for some stuff that you can build out of this without actual spending money, then it's probably a good way to go. And there's a couple of dual gang, and the values are actually 100k, and this one is 100k as well. This one's linear, that's analog, and the last one is 100k analog as well. You can tell it says it's analog or linear by the B and the A. You probably would know that by now, unless you're very new to electronics. And the thing I thought was going to be a real score, which didn't turn out to be so much so, was the knobs on the front of the hi-fi system. They are aluminium knobs, and they look pretty good. I gave them a scrub with a toothbrush to see if I could get them looking nice. I mean, they were covered in dust and crap all over them, and then they turned out quite shiny. They got a few scratches, you know, they're probably 30 years old, so you got to expect that. But the problem is, they're actually made for an inset. You can see that little black thing sticking out. They're made to go, the front panel has an inset that these go into, so they kind of only protrude, like, how do I explain this? The front panel's basically like that. They go inside the front panel, and it's sort of scooped out where the pot sticks out. So that's makes it challenging to use for a guitar pedal, because we don't usually do that. They sit flush. I actually hacksawed off the top of that one, and I could probably make it work, but yeah, it's becoming a lot of trouble. You could make them work, I guess. If you could be bothered going to the trouble, you could do it. It's whether you got time or not. If you've got lots of time and no money, then this can be a lot of fun. If you've got lots of money and no time, then there'll be no room in your life for doing stuff like this. So that's the guts of it. There's a few connectors and things on the front of the actual receiver. Just point the camera at me. There's a few things, connectors and things on the front. There's also some wire. There's a big transformer, which people that know what they're doing might be able to reuse. I wouldn't touch it because you're working with mains voltage when you're messing around with that. But if you did know what you're doing, then you probably wouldn't have even made it this far through this video, because you'd know everything that I'm saying. But there was a transformer in there as well, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you can get a lot of resistors off this stuff too. You got to check to make sure that these values, that they're still within spec. Some of this stuff can go downhill as time goes on. Some of this stuff appears to be good, and then you put it in a circuit, and then it goes downhill once you reapply electricity to it. I don't know. I mean, I've used a lot of Mojo stuff. Generally, I find it's usually pretty good as long as you're relatively selective, like the electrolytic caps I was saying. But I don't know. I'd probably say that this is an era of about early 80s, maybe late 70s, by the looks of the components and stuff on there. If you get something that's a bit older, you might find some better stuff. Having a bit of trouble recording this last bit of the video without my little assistant coming in, so I thought I'd just do the last bit with it. Hi, wave to the YouTubers. That's good. Anyway, thanks for watching. That's it for this video. Good luck salvaging, and just remember that warning about AC equipment. Don't touch it if you don't know what you're doing, because you'll injure yourself. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Wave, James. Wave. Bye. 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 Bye.